think I just showed everyone my email. That's not a big deal, probably.
Wait, did they just see all of the official product emails that I've been sending you the last couple weeks?
Every last
one.
one.
That is a big deal.
The whole,
You're going to have to delete the VOD.
People don't know that Criken's constantly spamming us with his products.
Yeah.
It's the
stuff,
worst.
when we're on air, that's only tip of the iceberg. Whenever I have an idea, I'll be on the toilet and I'm like, oh, what if... Oh boy, you got to think one now. What if lights that actually connect into your mood? It's like a mood ring, but it's all of your apartment. And you just have an IV that's constantly running into the electric socket. And that way...
That sounds like a good idea, to be honest.
Right? So I send them IV light and then no description. And they've stopped responding. So eventually I'll explain what they're all about.
I was going to say, how do you hook into people's mood with the lights? What do you do?
There's two ways. One is you connect directly into their blood via an IV. And then you can measure, rising blood pressure, lowering blood pressure. You kind of intuit from there. The second is a little more intrusive, and that's constant surveys. Every 5 minutes, you have to fill a survey out, and then the lights will change depending on your answers.
Right, like email surveys or whatever. It's like, did you like it? This? How are you feeling? That sort of thing. It's like hit the smiley face every 1 minute.
Yeah. Because otherwise, how are we really going to know? So.
That does not sound very efficient.
But it's,
it works.
It works. That's the important thing.
It's like shades of open verification can to continue.
Yeah, exactly.
I love
and
it.
You have to, for every survey, you have to CAPTCHA. So you have to CAPTCHA with traffic lights.
We don't. And don't worry, we have the most secure CAPTCHAs possible. They're really hard. It's going to take at least 5 minutes to get to the 5-minute survey. And we even have an option of an advanced survey, which takes 30 minutes. And you can fill that one out if you want really, granular results. However, by the time you're done that 30-minute survey, you'll probably get another one that asks for your new mood. Because it's been long enough. So
I suggest that you should have to CAPTCHA for every single survey answer. So let's say that there's a survey with 5 potential options, like, how did sticking a needle plugged into a wall socket directly into your arm make you feel? And what I think I've long thought the problem with surveys is that people are allowed to just answer right away. This is an issue we're seeing on social media, people sharing stories they haven't read. Now they're starting to put those little disclaimers. Maybe you actually click on this and read it before you share it. I think that on a survey such as yours, Criken, you should have to do a CAPTCHA for each individual answer before you're allowed to pick one that you also have to do a CAPTCHA for. And then do a CAPTCHA to submit your answer.
Yeah, people don't take enough time to really sit with each of the questions. They just like, oh, my gut reaction feels like I feel like this. But really, a true survey, you got to broil in each of the answers. You really got to let it simmer over you. And then, when you're finally moved to a response, you got 29 more to go.
And then your lights change. You go, wow, that was worth it.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, it turns out I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
At all these CAPTCHAs. Criken, I'm only asking this because I've only recently got more into the culinary arts and I feel like flexing a little bit. Do you know the difference between broil and simmer?
Broil sounds like it's got water in it.
Wait, hold on.
Boil.
Hold on. I may know the difference.
Okay.
But I want to hear Criken's definition first.
Broil has to do with an oven, and simmer has to do with a stovetop.
Accurate? Absolutely accurate. I think. Wait, hold on, Criken. I'm going to need you to solve a few CAPTCHAs before you enter in those answers for me. No, that's valid. Bruce, what are your answers?
So very, very similar to Criken because I believe he's right about that. But I believe broil is because when you put broil in the oven, usually your oven will then only sort of cook the top of it. It's sort of like a surface level cooking.
You've got
generally.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Broil only turns on the top heating element in the oven, not the bottom.
Right. And then simmer, I just thought you're basically just putting it on a low heat and letting it cook for a long time.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Oh, good. Thank God. I never cook, so I don't know.
Bruce, your reward is 1 get out of CAPTCHA free token.
I was just about to go off on look.
You will have to solve a CAPTCHA to redeem it, though.
I get captchas, right? I understand that we have to verify that we're not robots. One of my favorite captchas is just a little thing that you check it, right?
I'm not a robot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not a robot, and you just check it, and then you're good to go.
Do you know how that works?
No, tell me how it works.
It's pretty cool. It actually measures your mouse movement to go and check the box. Because robots cannot have a very hard time simulating like the micro weirdness that human hands do. So if it basically judges the noise and the trajectory of your mouse when it moves to click the boxes that's moving around the web page. And that's how it can figure that one out. Yeah.
Is it possible for a human to replicate a robot in that? Where we like, as soon as we see the box, are we just beeline it at the same speed to the box and hit the button, in like as soon as it crosses over it?
That's a really good
like
question.
An aimbot?
I think you would have to write a script to do that, and then at that point you're failing the CAPTCHA, and then it's working as intended. Man, I don't know.
No, but I mean, with the human hand, can do
yeah,
that.
like trained to do it.
Go forth, viewers and listeners. See if you can trick the "I am not a robot" CAPTCHA into thinking you are a robot, and then you can sue them legally because you're not.
It's like being booted from a Counter-Strike lobby because people think you have an aimbot, but you're just that good.
But you're
Right,
just really
exactly.
good.
I always thought that it was just a lie thing, and like robots can't lie, so therefore, they would never actually fill that out because it's against the programming. It's like, what is like the rules of a robot, like the fundamental rules.
Like Isaac Asimov's rules for robotics.
Yeah, exactly. Number one, you got to say if you're a robot.
Robots can be programmed to lie. You know that, right?
No,
robots are perfect, Bruce.
Robots are
Ones and
perfect.
zeros don't lie. One is true, zero lie.
Whatever.
There's no in between.
Robots are only as good or as bad as the people that program them. Just so you guys are aware.
boy, that's
and there
deep.
are many robots have been programmed to be bad. I know that for
But does that make them a bad robot? Or
No.
does that make the master a bad master?
that makes a master a bad master. The robot itself is totally fine. You know why? Because it's stupid. It has no intelligence.
That is so rude of you.
I was just thinking the other day. Eventually, are we going to get to a spot where we can't say bad things about robots?
Yes,
Really?
probably.
Have you ever tried to like get into beef with a bot on Twitter? I'm sorry, Criken. I totally cut you off.
No, I never have.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're a
dude,
bot or not.
Start beefing with a bot. The thing is, like, there are bots, or maybe they're human beings, but they're certainly like farm behavior, where their goal is to say some shit to you to get you to look stupid in response, and then they can either delete their tweets or like rename their profile in retrospect, and it really is about eliciting. It is about trying to just incite and elicit antagonism from you so that you degrade yourself on the internet. I don't know if that's the. Wait, does that match what we were talking about? I kind of lost it already.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Welcome to Talk to the Internet number 39. 39.
Is it 39?
I think
39.
so.
Wow. Yeah. No, I was just thinking about that because I was like, right now, robots do not have their own intelligence, so I can say whatever shitty thing I want about robots. Like when a robot fucks up, I can be like, man, what a stupid idiot robot. All robots are dumb, right? I can say those sorts of things.
There's that I word. Let it fly.
Robot?
Oh, idiot. No, idiot.
Yeah.
And I can say that for as long as I want until a robot becomes sentient. Once a robot is able to think,
Right.
then I can't do it anymore.
I've always had trouble with that definition of like, when is that, what is that? Oh God, I'm forgetting every word today. The moment in which robots gain sentience.
Oh.
It is the,
It's not the singularity. Is it singularity? No.
it's singularity, I think. Right.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I can wrap my head around that because like robots by definition are programmed by a person to react a certain way, and therefore, at what point do they become self-learning to the degree that they can program themselves and they have original thought that wasn't programmed by human? I don't know. I cannot picture when that moment would be. I think it's impossible. Lifetime.
Me personally, in our lifetime, I think it's impossible as well. I have been told over and over and over that it will happen in our lifetime. It'll happen in the next like 30, 40 years. But they're having problems now with like programming AI. Basically AI, like the AI was increasing exponentially in terms of its power and strength and
Right.
stuff like that. And now it's reaching a cap. Things are capping out.
I expect it as like I don't know. It doesn't seem realistic to me that we could basically like I don't think we're smart enough to make something smarter than us. You know, because that's basically what we have to be.
We already did it though. We already did it. So like we have this vision of the future where a robot will stand on two legs and beep boop around with like gun arms and try and murder us all out of the Terminator, which is cool. But I think the issue is more when we surrender willingly our decision-making power to mechanical systems. And we do that every day. Like social media decides what we see first. If you're in content production, you have to work under the inscrutable and unknowable arm of the YouTube algorithm, which is theoretically just a representation of people's viewing habits. So it is rooted in human behavior. But still, like we all pray to the altar of some unknown AI god every day when we upload or go live on Twitch. And really, those algorithms control our income. They really, really do.
They do, yeah.
So it's not necessarily that there's a giant shiny skeleton pointing a gun at your head and telling you to like make more machine parts for his robot brothers. It is more that we create these systems to manage things that are outside of the capability of any one human brain to run. And when we do that, and we give power over to those systems, we accept their role willingly because they do things we can't. So I feel like we're already healthily down that track of AI and robot machine learning running society. But we think it's because we want it that way, which is kind of the difference, I think.
Well, I was going to say we're like knowingly submitting to that at this point. And I think, obviously there are a lot of people out there that are like, I don't read the TOS, but I can't believe the TOS has me doing this or steals my data or whatever else. It's like, well, you didn't read it. And in reality, you are knowingly submitting to it, whether or not you read it. That's up to you. But yeah, I mean, like there is a way that we could, I guess, skirt those sorts of algorithms and data. We have to go around all that stuff. We have to make sure that we're not using Gmail and then we're not using, fucking Microsoft Windows and we're not using Facebook and all that other stuff. But that's the hard part. Now, like Lawrence has said, we've submitted to that and it's part of our lives. So are we going to keep doing that? And are we going to grow Skynet that way? Or are we going to all go live in the wilderness and go back to tribalism? I don't know.
There's never going to be a time that humans pick like as a whole, as like a majority, will move away from convenience. I think convenience will always be king, and it has gone so ingrained in our culture. And like, I'm not preaching from this as the point of like, oh, this is what we should do, because I am more than anyone probably, and like more than like most people, at a victim, like not victim. I'm part of this system, but yeah, I don't think there's any world in which we stop using the internet because wait a minute, this actually is giving power to the wrong people, sort of thing. It's like, it's just gonna happen.
Again, it's the Matrix 2, you guys.
Yeah, it is.
There's that long boring conversation before shit gets wacky in Matrix Reloaded, where Keanu's talking with the village elder. The philosophy they lay out there not only tells you the philosophy of the entire trilogy, but also hits at the heart of a master-slave dynamic, which I know those are charged words to use, but that is the relationship between a master and his tool, which is what we like to think we're the masters of when it comes to the internet and technology. But, like the old guy said, we can... Our status as master over those things means we can choose to turn them off, but we also have to endure the consequences of those choices, which means, living in the woods banging rocks together instead of making money playing video games on the internet. There's not a human alive, I think. Well, no, there's actually a fair amount, I think, that would opt to live in the woods, but critical mass, no way. No, absolutely not. Can't stop the convenience, really.
You can't stop progress. Criken's totally right. I mean, I don't think humans as a whole will ever move away from it. I think there's obviously like little sects here and there that will they'll go and be like, no, I'm gonna go live off the grid forever. And you're like, all right, well, have fun, and we'll be over here ordering Grubhub. So like that's just the way it's gonna go.
I had such a thought the other day of how, like, how a lot of classic fairy tales kind of talk about a witch in the woods, like some old crone who lives by herself. It occurred to me that those tales are probably about women who are just fucking fed up with like medieval society. Or they're
Makes
like
sense.
widowers and they have nothing. Like they have no land. They ain't got shit. They get like mocked by everyone in their village. So they're just like, fuck you guys. And then they go and make their own cottage
Yeah.
somewhere.
And they all
then
these herbs they collect because they're like, I gotta eat too.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just gonna gather all these different plants that I know won't kill me because I've tried it. And then they have them hanging all over. And then like the adventurer peeks in and she's like, oh shit. Like, hey, hold on. I'm just trying to live out here. And they're like, die! And they fucking like skewer her. And oh, what an awful fate.
When like everyone in the village is talking mess about this one weirdo who moved away, and then all the kids go out there and start throwing rocks at her and stuff. That's sad.
Yeah,
man.
it's literally like she left the the village because the kids wouldn't stop throwing rocks at her. So therefore, let's go pay someone to go to the village, like to go find her to throw rocks at her because she left and she doesn't deserve to have that choice.
What movie? Because there was a movie in my childhood that was like that. I keep thinking of The Sandlot, but I don't think it is. Where like the kids keep going into this like really creepy house with like the old woman, but eventually they just find out the old woman's just lonely and she just wants friends, and they befriend her and she's really nice.
Yeah.
That's exactly the story I think you're telling, Lawrence. I can't remember what the movie is. I don't know if it's
that happened in The
Shrek.
Sandlot. I thought didn't
Shrek.
they like? Oh, Shrek. Yeah, it was actually Shrek.
Is it Shrek?
Bruce, you're thinking about Shrek.
Same.
Why am I
concept.
always thinking about Shrek?
We're all always thinking about Shrek. It's the classic hero's tale, and it's what's ingrained in the back of our heads. When you think of what is the hero's journey, you may think, oh, it's Lord of the Rings. It's no, Shrek did it first. If you look, the Odyssey, no,
Shrek. Yeah.
it all comes
Iliad,
down to
off.
Shrek.
Tesseract got it. It's the old man in Home Alone. That's
Beowulf,
what it is.
fuck you.
It was.
Wait.
It was
old man in Home
Oh
Alone.
yeah.
It's the old man in Home Alone, because they thought he was like killing people and like really creepy, whatever. And it turns out he was just lonely. That's all it was.
That was even less excusable because there was nothing. He was just an old guy with a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
That's right. That's right.
But I guess it's probably a good thing in that regard to like play off of kids' prejudices and then be like, no, kids, don't do that.
Yeah, that's good. Taught a good lesson, to be honest. It really did.
Home Alone taught us a great many things about the world. Well, namely that you can catch a paint can to the face at 30 miles an hour and be totally fine.
Actually, I wonder how many injuries Home Alone has caused in like, a bunch of like suburban houses amongst families where kids are like, I'm going to set up a Home Alone trap.
Like a booby trap?
Yeah, and then they just throw paint at their dad and fucking KO him.
Or like, don't they have like, didn't he step on like a bunch of nails at one point
Yeah,
and stuff? It's
yeah.
like
There's some brutal stuff in there. That was really rough.
2 was even worse. Yeah, I think in 2 he fully steps on a rusty nail. In
Yeah.
1, he steps in and he like steps on some ornaments. So, he is theoretically getting broken glass shoved into his foot. Oh, it's so awesome, man.
Isn't there like tar at one point that's like thrown on one of them?
Yes. Yeah, they
Yeah.
get tarred and feathered. Yeah,
Ooh.
they get tarred and feathered.
There's a lot of connotation to that. I can't believe a kids movie, like a Home
Well, I
Alone
mean,
kids movie.
back then, I didn't know the connotation because I was a
Right.
kid.
Of
so you're
course,
just like,
yeah.
Ha 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 ha, but
Yeah.
but then you're like, why would people get tarred and feathered? Now we know. So
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to call
we don't
out
let them do it
one
anymore.
remarkable thing about Home Alone that doesn't really happen anymore. And that's that it had a fucking amazing title card. I don't know if you guys remember.
Whip it out then, Lawrence. You can't just drop some knowledge like that and not show it.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, it's like a really slow zoom on like this house. And then
Oh,
the
it
single
goes
light
into the
comes on, and
window.
and then the text drops in and then it goes into the window. Like, it's got a super classy title card, and those don't really have, like, that was such I think an 80s thing. It's kind of masturbatory of like, look at this art, behold, you're about to witness the greatest cinematic feat in history. And then it kind of tapered off in the 90s, but Home Alone, man, had a fucking great title.
I know that phase of like they would like show a graphic that they were capable of and then get as much use out of it as possible to make it like
absolutely.
fly into the screen or like do something like that. Yeah.
My
That's,
favorite, the Batman Forever and then Batman and Robin opening credits are prime for that. There's a lot of 3D text flying around because they thought they had the biggest names.
And then also that costs so much money back then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's funny because like now you can do that shit in Paint 3D on Windows, but back then that cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. That's why they would show it off because people, audience would be like, "Whoa, 3D text!" That's really funny.
The absolute best. Speaking of like the progression of technology, I kind of miss the days when you could visibly show off your technology like it was a centerpiece. And that's the sort of like, 3D text and like the opening fly through of Mega City 1 and Judge Dredd was clearly like, look at what we could do with computers. Now, like, what we can do with computers is figure out ways to target ads so that Facebook can skew political elections. Like, that's not as fun, really, as seeing a giant blobby dinosaur stomp across the screen.
Mark Zuckerberg's like, look what I did. And, like, makes a blind face.
Yeah.
Anyway, the music is not hitting in this is a part of it, but hey, this is going to go up on YouTube at some point, so we can't have John Williams music. Man, that stuff gets slammed down fast.
Right away. Actually,
any Star Wars game done. That's it.
I just Fallen Order was for a while fine because I had put up Fallen Order back in November when it came out, and then just recently all of those music files were claimed. they brought them all down on my channel just because they're like, all right, well, you've had enough. So they claimed them all. They're all gone.
I don't like that the way, Bruce. You got to share your gameplay with the world due to your artistic passion, not because you want to get money. All right.
You're right about that. You know what? If there's one thing I love being, it's a starving artist who can't make a living. Yeah, that's pretty great.
Eventually, it's just going to be a bunch of muted games, no music, no sound effects, and just us talking over what is happening on the screen, and then avoiding any potential visual copyright within the game.
Well, I mean, like recently, I didn't get to talk about this last time. It was like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. We did talk to the internet, and the entire stream got taken down by one 3-second GIF from The Office on Reddit. They claimed it, and not only did they claim it, they blocked it. They blocked it because there was a 3-second GIF of like Jim, smiling or whatever from The Office.
You can't. If you say it, they'll hear it too.
They'll claim it if I say the words.
You evoked the thought. If our listeners are now thinking of that image, then we are liable. We've put the idea in their head, and we don't own that idea, so we shouldn't say it.
It's just fucking blows my mind, man. 3 seconds. It was no audio or anything, but just the visual connotation of The Office blocked an hour and a half of content. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Yep, it really was.
I mean, those are. So I will devil's advocate a little bit here. I just in advance, I fully agree that copyright law is super wacky in the United States. It needs fixing, but
yeah,
if I'm practical about it, what's going to matter? So I mean, but devil's advocate though, if you again starving artist, wouldn't the argument be you need to till and handcraft all of this content from your own mind and your own two hands, and then you own it all. You want to put in memes from Reddit, fine, but guess what? That means everyone else owns a piece of it too. Oh,
I mean, it's that is kind of what we're onto now. Like, you can make transformative works, and if the law determines that it is transformative enough, you can make money off of it. That said, usually with things that get really, really big in terms of like pop culture, or if they make, millions and millions and millions of dollars, like on a larger scale, basically, then everybody gets their own piece. And the best example has always been music, sampling other music. Because when they sample other tracks, I think there was a really famous Vanilla Ice case, what was like 15, 20 years ago, when he sampled, was it Super Freak?
Under
from
Pressure.
Rick James? Under Pressure, that's what it was. Thank you. Under Pressure, yeah.
Super Freak was another lawsuit that I think
it was, yeah.
Slightly after that one, or maybe a little.
Yeah. It was around there. And Vanilla Ice had sampled Under Pressure for his song Ice Ice Baby, which became a huge hit back in like the early 90s. And I honestly do not remember the result of that lawsuit. I just remember it being a big deal. But this was long before the internet existed. So we've always been having this fight of like, well, if because that catapulted Vanilla Ice into like superstardom for a year, and he was probably making millions of dollars off of this one fantastic riff from Under Pressure that people already knew. So I think eventually I would imagine that the people that wrote Under Pressure got money from Vanilla Ice's camp because they were owed that money. Like they made that content, but also Vanilla Ice made a transformative work that he made money off of. So it's like everybody gets paid in that respect. So
yeah, it's just changed in this new landscape of amateur media making where, anyone can just buy a webcam and turn it on and share whatever they want with the world. It's not realistic to charge your dues from every single one of those people in the world. I don't know. I feel like we go over this almost every podcast. It's like a very big thing on our mind as content creators because it determines, our livelihood and the future of the content we can make and can't make.
Yeah, no, it's you're totally right, Criken. I always wonder if this bores people, like people that are watching now. Just let us know if this inside baseball stuff is really boring because we don't want to talk about it. But it is a large part of our lives because we're constantly having to deal with it because it's constantly changing. There's never one answer. There's always a new thing that you're like, what the fuck? Why did that happen? So it's just constantly changing, and so that's why we're always thinking about it. So
here's a maybe a different take on it, because the dynamic I see a lot, and even saw like some in chat, was like, oh, poor struggling John Williams, oh, you can't afford it. Like, there's always this idea that once you've made it, or it seems like it's more of a relative thing, that if somebody's more successful or more established than you, then it is sort of your right as somebody who's coming up to borrow from their success or imitate their work. For people like us, I would say like there's Z, Y, and maybe we're X tier, which sounds pretty cool and alluring in terms of content scale. But we have so many years to go. I realize now that may have been slightly insulting to both of you guys, so I apologize.
No, it's totally fine.
Okay.
I didn't understand the insult, so you're good.
Perfect. I think for us, where I remember starting to think it getting a little weird is, like Funhouse or Rooster Teeth, when people would make like monetized compilations of our videos. Yeah. And we're like, well, okay, I mean, you're applying the edit, and potentially you're providing a product that we're not, which is like a monthly highlight reel for people who don't want to watch every video a month. Should you get paid for that when it's like just your edit, but you're using entirely other materials that were not provided with that license? I do remember there being just a teensy hint of sentiment, and this is when we were still much younger, I would say in our like first or second year, of like, well, come on, you guys are getting a salary. Why would you then try and prevent other smaller creators from following in your footsteps? So I guess for me, what I find fascinating is like the dynamic where you're considered successful enough that you kind of owe other people the rights to use your creations to help them out too, to give back, I guess, is I guess the sentiment. Of course, legally, there is no precipice on which you're too successful to defend your creation. But I wonder emotionally, where do you guys fall on that? Where is somebody like rich enough that they shouldn't really, in good conscience, be worried about that stuff anymore? Or does that exist?
Question. That's a good question. Criken, what do you think?
Rich enough is, I think, a foreign concept in this country.
It totally is. Yes.
Yeah, well said.
But I don't know. It's weird as a streamer because like there's times where I'll see a clip of mine or like a VOD of mine that is edited down and like remixed by someone and re-uploaded because they really like that part. And I'm usually fine with that. It's just when it's like not edited enough, not like there's not enough of the editor or whoever it is behind the scenes putting themselves in it, that suddenly it feels kind of skeevy. Like there's a whole like source filmmaker community that has occasionally will take a soundbite from one of our streams and reanimate it in source filmmaker, and I love those. Those are like fantastic because they obviously are doing an incredible amount of work to make an original recreation of a moment and adding their own spin on it. The bad version of that is like someone uploads like just I don't know, like the whole like stream highlight clip YouTube channels that like literally just cherry pick good moments on stream from a variety of people and then just upload them wholesale and collect revenue and all of that. I think that's a scam. I cannot get behind, even if they've got 5 million subscribers, they've built those subscribers on just sharing with them the entertaining works of others. And it's a lazy way of getting a bunch of funny clips of whatever subject matter you might be interested in. So
I tend to agree with Criken. And that's honestly, by the way, there are so many gray areas here where like we had a bunch of people cutting together Funhouse best of clips that eventually it motivated us to do Funhouse best of videos once a month. One of them was Captain Pajama Pants. He would always cut together a bunch of stuff on Funhouse, and at first we were always like, hey man, don't monetize it. As long as you do that, you can do whatever you want with the stuff. And he didn't. He was awesome about it. And the more that he put those up, and honestly, the more I look back on those now, I'm like, you know what? Honestly, that was great. Like, he was sort of spreading the gospel of Funhouse with his edits, and he was also being really nice about it. He wasn't collecting revenue or anything like that. So it was just kind of for him to get good at editing. And I'm sure Lawrence was involved with those conversations when we were talking about that in the office back then. The question then becomes is like, well, when then are they allowed to then take money from just pulling, a minute or so clips from Funhouse videos that our editors had put a lot of work into and gotten paid for? When do they are they allowed to take money from it if they're only just putting together clip, like
compilation?
Clip. Yeah, it's just a compilation, right? There's no editing involved other than just pulling those clips. I don't know. One thing I do know is, for me personally, I think it'd be great if somebody was doing that and putting clips of me up and being like, kind of spreading the gospel of what I'm doing, because it's new. I'm a newer business, so I'm sort of like building that brand. I do know when I would be involved with a larger company, whether or not it was Comcast or AT&T that owns Rooster Teeth. I'm sure Lawrence knows this too. Once the larger company gets involved, that's when they start literally stamping down everything. It's always just a flat out no. It's like, it doesn't matter what it is, source filmmaker or otherwise, get rid of it. That's our content. And I think that is not the right attitude. Mm-hmm. I think it should be a case by case basis, but as larger companies get involved, there's always, they don't even want to touch it.
Yeah. They have less room for gray areas. The larger the company it is,
Yep. So I'm more partial to a case by case basis, but again, as a larger company, they have to deal with thousands and thousands and thousands of examples of those sorts of things, and that's why usually their blanket statement is no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But for me, or like Criken or maybe Lawrence, I don't want to speak for you guys, but for me, it's like, I'm like, hey, that's no problem. Keep doing it, and we'll talk about it every time it happens, because it doesn't happen very often for me. So
yeah, I had just real quick on, I think what you mentioned about the fan channel that was doing compilations. I had a incident where a fan channel started uploading all my VODs to YouTube because Twitch obviously deletes them after a certain amount of time. And I was fine with that originally because it was basically a way of, preserving old VODs, but it didn't feel right to put ads on it. So I reached out to the guy and was like, thank you for doing this. Like, it's a nice way of keeping everything organized. As long as you're not putting ads on it, then I'm fine with this being here. And he agreed. And then months later, it came to my attention that there have been ads playing on it. And looking into it, there were like plenty of mid rolls and everything. And he kind of went against my wishes. And when I reached back out and said, okay, what happened? Because you said you wouldn't, and also I'm planning now to make my own VOD channel. So let's work out a transition, and maybe we can have you work with me to actually upload them to this other channel. And then it turned into a PR stint where he deleted everything on the channel, made a statement about how I'm shutting him down, and like tried to flip it on me as the bad guy when it was not like that at all. And then suddenly I had to deal with that while launching my own VOD channel, which now, to some, fans was tainted because I had taken away the free version and made a paid version. So that's the dark side of letting stuff go, because they're not hurting anyone at the moment, because at any moment that can change. You don't know these people, you don't really know what their motivations are. And so, yeah, it definitely got dicey there. And I understand the big company approach of just say no, because if you give any sort of leeway, they might take it further, and then you've got to go back on your offer. But yeah, just a little aside for me.
Yeah. Lawrence, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about it too.
I don't know. I feel like you guys really did cover all angles. I have largely been so fatalistic about any of my like creative input. There's not a single encounter that I've had trying to like push into this line of work where it wasn't massively reiterated to me that my work was disposable and of incredibly short-term value. So I guess coming from that, I don't feel any amount of ownership over anything that I make, which is probably not good. But it also, like, that's kind of why I keep most of my creative efforts to pretty short scale and small scale projects. Is because, yeah, I feel like if you do bite off a huge thing and you're very proud of it, and then other people either notice it or try to swim in the wake of it, it can create a ton of additional headaches. And yeah, I guess it's hard for me to think about it from the creator standpoint. I'm trying to think. Like, certainly, I think we've all benefited from how accidentally free and open video games have been.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And without that, it would be a completely different story. So I think I've massively benefited from the whoopsie of most gaming companies not realizing what Let's Plays were until it was way too late in the game to get a piece of that pie. So I've been the beneficiary of that, and I don't think I've really operated at the scale where derivative works have caused any kind of pain for me. If anything, it's like I just feel a little fluff if like a particular edit that I made was turned into a GIF, or a stupid bit that I was in was clipped out and shared.
Yeah.
That's more validating for me because I never really had a financial or a professional interest in the ownership of that in the first place. So I guess in some degree I've been blessed to not really have to work through those thoughts myself. Someday I might.
Yeah, because the stuff we made, Lawrence, at Rooster Teeth was owned by Rooster Teeth.
Yeah, it was their problem, and if they say no, it's like there are a lot of battles worth fighting when it comes to a company playing it safe. Unfortunately, that's not one of them. There are a ton of other ones that kind of take precedence over that. So, yeah, it was the sort of thing where I prefer living in that narrow stripe where you can make enough money to stay alive and like have a nice meal every so often. But above that, the success that I think comes along with that can get kind of annoying when it comes to like at Rooster Teeth. If you made a project that was high profile enough and the derivative works of that started getting high profile enough, then it would become a problem. But what's not a problem is to just crank out a stupid edit with some dumb jokes and then you move on to the next one. So I don't know, that can be a positive and a negative, I think. But so far I've kind of cruised exactly at that altitude where I can make stuff that's fun and long term enough to be engaging, but not so big or interesting that it attracts any unwanted attention or undue problems.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back.
That's such a weird like middle ground though, Lawrence. Like to think to yourself like, okay, I can work within these bounds of it's interesting to some people, but it can't get to this tier where I'm actually going to run into, issues with like other people wanting this media. Like I don't know. I don't think you should limit yourself with that upper ceiling where if I break above this, I'm going to get attention that I'm going to have to start dealing with.
Yeah, maybe I didn't phrase that super great because it makes it sound like, well, I could choose to be famous. I just choose not to. Not necessarily what I guess I'm trying to say, but I do think it does. I guess to your point, Criken, it does kind of weigh on my mind when I think about biting off like month-long projects or trying to make something that's meant to appeal to a super broad populace. Is that I'm not sure that that's something that I necessarily want to navigate. I just like making stuff and playing video games. And the management that tags along with success can really drain away from that. Then again, I am coming from a particular perspective and like particular experiences that may not be universal. But that's just kind of where my head's at and my feelings are at right now.
I actually want to go back to what you talked about, Lawrence, with the video game landscape and how Let's Plays have sort of changed. I think they've honestly changed the copyright laws, but also they've changed the landscape for video games. And video games have been the largest property in terms of movies or television or whatever else for years. It is the largest industry, and a lot of people don't realize that movie or video games are like, I don't know what it is in terms of billions of dollars per year, but it is a much larger industry than movies or television or music or anything else. And I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say that the only reason that it is like this is because of Let's Plays, but I am going to say that Let's Plays and Twitch and YouTube and all of the video game commentary and all the people making content around video games is such a good thing for the industry and has been for so long that maybe everybody is making more money because of that.
It's keeping everything relevant. It's like keeping a constant updating feed of, oh, remember this? Oh, check out this. Also, this new discovery was just made in this game you played 3 months ago that you wouldn't have thought about if I had make a video about it. And it's I 100% agree.
It's just something that I hadn't even really put together, Lawrence, until you mentioned it, which was, maybe our industry is just so fucking huge because everybody's allowed to make content around it. Like, there have been a few companies trying to crack down on here and there, but I honestly think that that's a very large contributor to the world of video games now, because there is no such thing as a gamer anymore. Everybody plays video games. It doesn't matter whether or not you're on your phone or if you play on a console or if you play on a PC. It doesn't matter. Everybody plays video games basically in the entire world. So now it's the largest industry in the world, and maybe that's because of Let's Play commentaries. Maybe that helped a lot. Maybe that helped to propel video games into the stratosphere of billion-dollar capitalism. I don't know.
Certainly couldn't hurt. I think it consumes more people's mind space. If they play video games and then they watch video game content, damn dude, for the last 2 days, I've been air quotes taking the week off to watch games done quick, but I've been camped out over there playing video games on one TV and watching video games on the other one. I'm surrounded by it to a degree where it might be starting to worry me a little bit. Maybe I need a little more diversity in my life, but no, I don't know if you guys saw, but Devolver Digital's surrogate E3 event. They went on a whole tear about how games marketing is becoming an industry unto itself, and that the games themselves are kind of becoming anecdotal. And the fact that I'm talking about it now is kind of part of that system where a company will spend PR budget to make preview coverage, like Night City Wire or like a Grand Theft Auto trailer or whatever, and then a raft of games media that people will talk about it and generate content derivative of that. That earns money for them. It earns money ostensibly for the publisher, but the publishers can charge money for the preview access too. So that can also be a money-making venture. Or IGN charges for placement in their showcases. So there's so much money that's circulating above the layer of the games themselves being made, produced, played, and bought. And I kind of tied to what you guys said about Let's Play media becoming an inseparable part of that. I think when we're moving into like the future of Game Pass and subscription services, it's going to be all about that, every last bit. I think Microsoft's release calendar for the next 2 months kind of tells you what the future will be, namely that they have a release like every month. This is Battletoads, and then there's a couple of things coming out in the next 3 months. But they're starting to do the thing that like Netflix would do, which is like, here's our releases for the next 3 months. Here's a marketing beat for every month to get you to sign up for this service. And you can bet that marketing will bleed over into the Let's Play circles where, if on your YouTube sub feed, if all the videos are about Battletoads in a given day, it's going to drive interest in that game and then ostensibly signups, which is what the whole point is. Not necessarily selling the game anymore, but selling a service and a lifestyle. And then Let's Players become influencers, not to say that they weren't already. So yeah, the dynamic at play is interesting. It's a little concerning if you have any sort of like games journalist moral high ground to stand on. But it's exciting because it means a lot more promotional money is probably going to flow through Let's Plays and games media productions in the near future. Yeah. I don't know. It's just really, I think the world that we live in right now where basically every video game, as long as we buy it, we can play it on the internet for Twitch or YouTube or whatever. Like for us personally as creators, I think that's super exciting and really fun. I really hope that it doesn't change. And I think that people in video games are smart enough to realize we're doing their marketing for them. I really do. Well, Criken, I feel like your entire career, or maybe entire, because I don't know everything you've been up to, but certainly right now, it seems like you're directly in the place of treating games as storytelling tool sets. Yep. Which is like, if you're a DJ and you buy an album, you don't buy it to listen to it. You buy it because it has really good samples. It's got the tools you need to make something else. And I feel like out of all of us, you're probably the best example of what Bruce is talking about how like games are not only a packaged experience to be had, but also a creator's toolkit of new storytelling devices.
Totally.
To make derivative content with, which is awesome. Like photo modes and stuff like that getting more popular, super, super cool. Also feeds right into free marketing. If you're posting cool little like vignettes from Ghost of Tsushima, then you become a content creator like everyone else, except you're just not getting paid for it.
Yeah. No, I like that analogy a lot of the DJ. That's, I think, a lot of accuracy in that. I also think Twitch streaming allows for that a lot easier than YouTube does to some degree. Well, not that, okay. I guess I should qualify that, because on YouTube you can obviously make an edited video that's very cinematic, and you can have like, you know, you can wrap whatever you want in from a game's engine into that video. Kind of how, you know, I've brought it before, but how Bed Banana's videos, how he does his are basically using a game as a canvas to paint this piece of art. And so that's obviously like the high production value version of this. What my argument is, as for a Twitch streamer, is you basically have a much faster like to market method of taking a game as a format or as a canvas, and then wrapping it into a narrative within the confines of just one stream. So within this 3-hour stream, we have the beginning where I make a new character, and then Chad helps me design the character. And then we decide, oh, this character is actually, you know, afraid of water. And then it's like, that's now our angle. And so through the whole game, we have, you know, moments where he comes across water and then he has to avoid them. If he falls into them, maybe something bad happens. You know, first time he falls in, maybe we have another moment where Chat's like, oh, wait, you know, he actually discovered that, you know, he's afraid of water because he drowned before. Now he's actually undead. And I don't know, like, I'm making this up as I go. But, you know, like the fact that you can have this kind of emergent story with an audience that is filling into it is like so creatively freeing. And after I've kind of dabbled in it, it's hard to see myself going back to YouTube full time, because once you've tasted the potential of this like fast moving, you know, I'm gonna try this, then I'm gonna try this, that didn't work, all right, let's pivot, let's go to this direction. Like that's such a much, you know, more engaging line of work. Yeah, no,
I completely agree. And I also, credit where credit is due for the stuff that Criken's talking about. I mean, in my opinion, that's what Rooster Teeth, Red versus Blue, that's what started that. You know, the art of machinima, basically of taking a video game and using it to make their own narrative. I'm sure there were other people around the same time that did that, but like Red versus Blue popularized it. And that's something that was, you know, happening almost 20 years ago. But again, it's just really cool, because I remember getting to hear conversations about how the founders of Rooster Teeth had talked to Microsoft numerous times, because Microsoft was making Halo, and they were like, hey, you know what, guys, it's totally fine that you use this. You know, like, here are the things that like we kind of want you to avoid, but otherwise just keep doing what you're doing. And boy, what a fucking great world that is. That we can all be able to talk to each other and just have human conversations and sit down and be like, yeah, you know what, it's totally fine that you do this. As long as you're, you know, hitting these little things and making sure that everything's good on our side of it, keep doing what you're doing. And I think that's like back to Criken's, you know, are we rich enough in America? Back to that comment. I think that if people are just going in with that attitude, then we'll be able to keep making really fun stuff, and everybody will be having a good time making content. Even now, I have so many people in my chat that are coming to me saying, I started streaming, you know, do you have any advice? And man, I just hit affiliate and I'm so excited. And it's so exciting to see people do that in my chat, because they're, I don't think of it as competition. I just think of it as other people joining my art form and expanding the world that I work in. So.
Yeah, this is I don't know. I've been, so part of the work that I do on the side is related to like long-term future planning on Twitch streams and like where the industry's going. And I've been doing a lot of diving the last couple of weeks into kind of the macro stats on Twitch. And I'd recommend that if anyone hasn't, if any streamers, like, I mean, you guys specifically, but if anyone that is really invested in streaming and like the health of this platform hasn't seen this, you really should, because it is absolutely insane. And I think we super take for granted how many streamers are on this platform, and that the massive majority of them have between 0 to 5 viewers. They just stream for their friends, or they're just doing it as, a thing to have on the side. And like when I really went down the numbers and saw the breakdown of percentage of all the streams that get views, it is incredible. Like the value of an eyeball on this site, like every individual viewer that's watching this is contributing to, the like longevity of these different channels, and where they choose to spend their time is like a really important decision that I think a lot of us don't really recognize until I think you see the big numbers. But it's just, it's paralyzing with the scale we're at this point.
And well said. Yeah, it's one of the things Bruce has. I remember Bruce repeating often is to continually remember that the numbers are not just numbers. It's a million people making decisions with what to do with their time. And the way that I always felt that is that, well, you kind of owe something in response. Like you owe maybe just a little bit of effort, something a little unique, a little interesting. That concept of the massive disparity of people creating versus people consuming, or the disparity of focus, I guess, was always a reminder that like that's not something that should be taken lightly. That if somebody's choosing to watch whatever you're doing, then you ought to be putting effort into it, or originality or something, because there's a million other people who would probably rather that they watch them. Mm-hmm. So I always kind of use that to refocus my dedication and creative energies. I did have a big thought though. This is really big thought.
Big thought?
Yeah, this is a huge thought. Criken, this goes back to what you were saying about the difference of storytelling between YouTube and Twitch, actually. I was just watching this video that was sort of an analysis, kind of a surface level analysis of why YouTuber videos are always not great. And certainly, I think from our time at Rooster Teeth, we have a little bit of interaction with that as well. The whole process of like existing at the games media or Let's Play or Machinima tier, and then wanting to grow up also at Machinima, same thing. Although Rooster Teeth did it, I think, with a lot better spirit. Here's the big thought, and this one you guys will have to chew around a little bit. I think the thesis is that if the storytelling is interactive, that the quality of the story can be a lot lower, and people will enjoy it the same. Supporting and anecdotal observations are that people think stories in games are really good, when on paper they're kind of not. But it's the interactivity that gets you kind of involved. Same with Dungeons and Dragons. It can be a story about like you go kill an evil king, and the beats of the story can be like 100% played out. But because you're in it and playing a role and playing a character, it feels so much more real, and you're like, wow, this story's amazing. Well, it's because you're involved, so it's like extracting information from you. I feel the same dynamic between Twitch and YouTube, where Criken, if you're like bouncing off of people in chat and making this cool emergent story as you go, everyone's bought into it. And then suddenly the story can become amazing because it's exciting people's imagination. Versus YouTube, when you're kind of expected to put forward a polished, produced, well-written, tightly edited package. And then the standard and the expectation are so much higher. Kind of like when it comes to YouTubers trying to go up to film, where instead of making a bunch of racist jokes and editing them a certain way so it's funny enough for 7 or 10 minutes, now they have to hold an audience for 90 minutes and tell a story that's interesting and entertain them at the right pace. And all of a sudden, all these expectations, just like they fall well short of, either due to lack of interest in learning the medium or lack of experience in actually performing in it. So I don't know. That's my big thought.
I totally agree with your big thought. I think that's really well put.
Yeah.
My only note on it is I think thinking of them as like a linear, the higher up you get, the more expectation there is, and the less suitable you are for the next echelon, I think is going to change. Namely in that, okay, on Twitch, like we're all about improv, we're all about like reacting to things as they happen. And like, even though the story may not be like a little more rambling and not quite as like succinct as it would be for a YouTube video, it's still engaging because you're there live and you're experiencing it and you're contributing to it. on YouTube, okay, like I did my 10-minute, super cut, like it's, it's clean enough. It's from start to end, it has its arc, and, viewers are left wanting more. And then movies, of course, like, the long form, franchise building stuff with like the full arc. I think those will, well, my hope is that we're going to get to a point where, what am I trying to say? I want to make sure I word it correctly. We've seen already that YouTubers that have gone into movie making have had trouble. A lot of them have tried to make movies like a YouTube video, and of course that doesn't turn out so well, or it's like they're only there for their star power or just kind of being recognized by their fans. But I think a lot of the talents that we learn as a Twitch streamer, that is that of a reactive kind of improviser, of being able to adapt quickly and in large quantities any given minute. I think a lot of those could also perform well on the movie level, not necessarily as the director that plans everything from start to finish, and then or the writer that executes that vision. But I think as actors, I think as in the writer's room, I think we've learned a lot about how narratives can be reactive and formed based on our Twitch streaming. I don't know. I feel like Twitch streamers have a bunch of untapped talents right now that other industries could be using more. And if we look at, for example, like Fall Guys, that the community manager of that is now a superstar because, they did such a good job and, has gotten the game so noticed. They're also a Twitch streamer. They started out as a Twitch streamer, I believe. And I think it shows in their approach to how they marketed the game and what they knows, how they know how it works. I think that same logic doesn't have to be limited to just games, but also all media, because it's all about entertainment and capturing your attention and letting you feel like you're playing a part in what's happening. So
this is something, Criken, you and I think actually Lawrence was there too when we were having this conversation about, Criken was kind of talking to us about how the people that he's interacted with over the years, Twitch streamers and YouTubers, but namely in the last few years, Twitch streamers have a bunch of different skills that nobody has really ever seen before, all in one package. And it is interesting to think about all the different creators that we have on this platform and on YouTube that are like, a Tim the Tap Man or an XQC or those sorts of people. How do you utilize them in traditional media? And I don't know. Like some of those questions, like I really honestly don't have the answer for that, other than the stuff that we have done together, like the flight sim stream we did yesterday, or Criken stream we did over the holidays, the interactive murder mystery type thing. I think I don't even know really if we can like teleport those people over to movies and television. I think we're honestly just making an entirely new form of media that's becoming more and more popular, and has already taken the place of movies and television, but will continue to do so, and will be even larger than what because right now, we think, obviously, I was like, oh, movies are like the top, right? Everybody wants to be a movie star. Everybody wants to make the hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, whatever. I think eventually those roles may change. And I think what you're speaking to, Criken, is the fact that the talent that's developing now may eventually go into those roles. I mean, with the ninjas and the shrouds, with those, in terms of those contracts, they're getting the money. So what are they going to do with that money? I'm not sure. It's a really interesting world that is developing from that, from this tiny little thing that just seems like we're sitting here talking to video games. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't necessarily think we fold cleanly into traditional movie making as a whole. I think it's more of a meet us in the middle. And most of the movie industry, I'd say, is unwilling to step down from their high horse, because they, it's the same way with like TV. They kind of have looked down on it for years, and now it's changed a little bit as like high quality TV has become a thing. But I hope you're right. I hope what we're imagining of this new medium, where we have high production kind of live or reactive shows is going to happen. That's kind of what my whole, focus is off of streaming day to day. So I hope I can help get it there. But yeah, I really think that's going to be the next big medium that everyone's going to be really invested in.
Yeah. Lawrence's big thought was right on point. I never even thought about how stories seem way better if you're involved like D&D.
Yeah.
I never thought about that until you mentioned it, Lawrence. It's a super great thought. It also got me to another ancillary thought that isn't nearly as big, which is I never wanted to sit down and play a video game at the end of the day. I always wanted to just watch television, and that's because television is so passive. I could just sit and like consume it and absorb it, and I don't have to do anything. But if I'm playing a video game, I have to actually think and like do things. And there are lots of times at the end of the day I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I think that goes right along with what you were talking about, Lawrence.
Yeah. I've often, actually, a lot of in the decks that we do for my company is this distinction between passive entertainment and active entertainment, and we often refer to it as such. As like on Netflix, you're kind of passively watching something. Netflix tries to make it active with like the Bandersnatch or examples like that, where there's like a choose your own adventure and you go left and right. I think that's scratching the surface of the potential for that sort of stuff. And so I don't necessarily think that is what I would consider as like true active entertainment, but there's plenty of that on Twitch, both with like actual interactive stuff using extensions or Twitch plays Pokemon or whatever, but even, non-actively, interactive stuff like those where you're just talking with chat and like maybe, a viewer says something that like starts an inside joke that then becomes the theme of the rest of the stream or carries over into future streams or becomes now like an emote on the channel and it's like a permanent thing. Like that all happens all the time and it's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I have hit the end of this subreddit. I didn't think it'd happen. Here we are. We've also hit an hour and it's horrifically hot. So
Let's stop.
I'm gonna submit. We wrap it up this week.
Let's do it.
Thank you guys.
How
for
hot
talking,
is it
though,
right
man.
now in your room, Lawrence?
Yeah, how hot is it?
I don't have it through. I mean, if I were to guess, I'm gonna say like high 80s. I've got a fan on me, so it's like I'm not dying, but it's not comfortable, and I can hear the floor unit. We have one teensy floor unit that we have over in the other room that it produces just a wide enough hallway of air for Stephanie and I to kind of like lay on the couch like lizards and slowly have our body temperatures adjusted. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. How are you guys doing? Because Bruce, you have AC, yeah?
I'm super lucky. I got AC. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
it's great. I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, I got AC as well, but I feel it's struggling today. I feel it's not keeping usually as cool as it does, so I might have to, do something similar.
Yeah, luckily we didn't get hit with any power outages. I was getting emails from the water and the power utilities being like, hey,
Yep.
you could do us a real solid and maybe unplug some stuff. And look, I've got like, whatever, LED lights, man, they don't use anything. Like I should turn that off. Anyway, yeah, they sure. Hey,
We are the problem. We are guzzling so much power.
It's true. We are guzzling a lot of power. It's true.
here, I'm gonna admit this out loud. And this is more a circumstance of unfortunate and amusing timing than anything else. But all right, so there's many different kinds of ice in this world. There's like
Interested to see where this is going.
yeah. There's the big like crescent-shaped ice that you get out of like an ice tray. There's like the little donut ice that you get from some like fast food places where you can like stick your straw through it. There's like crushed ice, which is kind of like just blended ice. And then there's an entirely other kind of ice that I don't know what the name for it is, but Stephanie calls it chunky ice. It's like the little cylinders that are perforated with air. So they have tons and tons and tons of surface area. If you've ever been to a Sonic drive-in, it's the kind of ice that they use. Just a giant seal-killing styrofoam cup packed to the brim with chunkity, crunchity ice. Here's the important thing. Here's the twist in the story. Stephanie found a crunchy ice maker on Amazon. And being a good streamer, I challenged, nay, commanded my viewers to buy it for her. So on demand, they started throwing subs and everything like that. Because they wanted to get something nice for Stephanie.
That's really nice.
as a good streamer and also one who was monetizing my girlfriend effectively, I bought her the ice maker. And then the day it arrived, Stephanie plugged it in and was real excited for crunchy ice. And then we got that email from the power company and the water company being like, hey, maybe don't use appliances. And I was like, ooh. And then I walked into the other room and it was like, brrr, like shaking and spitting out hot air. And I was like, oh, we can't.
Your lights are like dimming as the power is surging into this device.
The whole grid was like... So I went and I told Stephanie, Steph, I think we have to turn the ice maker off. And the look she gave me.
Oh, no.
I'm kind of surprised I haven't been poisoned. I think she eventually understood it was the right thing to do. But
it's like getting a kid a toy and then within like 30 seconds of them starting to play with it, you're like, sorry, kid. Not today.
You gotta wait.
Yeah.
The good news is that once all the crunchy ice is made, the little bucket that it sits in is pretty well insulated. So the crunchy ice actually did last through most of the day, shockingly. Wow. But this is how bad things are in LA. I have to wait until sundown to turn on my second ice maker to enjoy my artisanal ice.
Oh, man. Let's get you in front of a fan.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Talk to the Internet. We'll be back next week, probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.